Hey everyone, it's Megan here from Megan Makes Do, and today I'm going to show you how to make a super simple scarf using Lion Brand's Off the Hook Faux Fur yarn. This is the colorway Husky. This yarn is really cool. So it's a loop yarn. So it's a bunch of loops of the faux fur yarn. And the best part is that there's no tools needed. All you need is the yarn and maybe a pair of scissors. But I'll show you how to use this yarn to make a super cute pocket scarf. You're going to need 3 skeins of the Off the Hook Faux Fur yarn from Lion Brand and a pair of scissors. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've taken the wrapper off and unrolled a little bit of the skein. And as you can see here, these are the loops, and they're all just together here in one long strand of loops. So to start our scarf, we're going to go ahead and count out 10 loops, and that's how wide our scarf will be. So once you have your 10 loops, this is going to be the start of our scarf. We already have these loops. It's kind of like knitting, but without knitting needles. So now we're going to take the rest of our skein and we're going to bring it kind of up around the top. And all you're going to do is from that 10th loop, you're going to grab the next loop on the line and pull it through back to front. Get the next loop and pull it back to front. And basically all you're going to do is feed one loop through the other, always going back to front. So you'll have your working loops and then the loop from the yarn. And you just simply go along, and the next loop on the yarn, you slip through the next working loop. And that's all there is to it. This is so simple and so easy, and it's so much fun. It can be a little bit addictive, actually. So go ahead and continue down this row, always taking our loop from the yarn back to front through our working loop of our scarf. Okay, so here I finished the first row. You can see I have all these 10 loops here, and we're just going to repeat the same process going back the other way. So again, slip one loop back to front through the other loop, and just kind of keep working down your line of yarn, your little line of loops, and always make sure you're pulling the next loop and then go back through back to front. So you're just going to kind of zigzag back and forth, one direction from right to left, the next left to right, always bringing your working loop from the back to the front through the loop on your scarf. You just keep doing this over and over again until you get to the end of your skein. Okay, so we've gotten to our last loop. Here you can see it starting to get taller as we go. So we're just going to continue working left to right and then right to left, always drawing our loops from the back to the front until we get down to the last few loops of our skein. And then I'll show you how to add a new skein. Okay, so here I've gotten to the end of my skein. I have a couple loops left of this skein, but not enough to go all the way back across. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my second skein of yarn, and I'm just going to line it up with my scarf. I'm going to leave about 2 loops unworked because we'll need those loops later for when we weave it in. And I'm just going to line it up with the loops of my working scarf and just draw them from back to front through the loops of my scarf. So I'm just attaching my new skein directly onto my scarf. I don't have to worry about any kind of ends right now. We're just going to leave those hanging on the end and we'll put those in when we're all done. But that's as simple as that. That's how you reattach a new skein of yarn. You could also use this method to change colors of yarn if you wanted to use a couple different colors. But easy as that, we just keep on drawing those loops from the back to the front. And here's our last one. And then I'm just going to go ahead and continue on and do the next row. And now I'm ready to continue working with this new skein, and I'm going to do that for my second skein, and then this same kind of method to attach my third skein until I'm all done and I've used up all the yarn on all my skeins. So make sure you work through all 3 skeins, and then I'll show you how to weave in the ends and bind off. Okay, so I just finished my third skein of yarn. I'm all through. I have a little bit of a tail here because I didn't have enough of the loops to make one more row. So I'm just going to leave that hanging on the end, and on the opposite end from where my tail is, this is where we're going to start to finish off. So I'm going to take my first 2 loops, and I'm going to take the loop on my right hand side and push it through the loop on my left hand side. So I'm laying my left hand loop down. Then I'm going to move on, and for the third loop, again, the one on the right goes through the one on the left. So we're laying that left hand loop down, and it's going to lay it flat across the top of our work. So always move on to the next loop. The one in your right hand is going to slip through the loop on your left hand. And you're going to do that all the way across your scarf until you've used up all of the loops. Okay, so now I've gotten to the end. I'm just going to pull all of my tail with the extra loops all the way through the last loop on my scarf. Make sure you get them all the way through and pull it tight. And here you can see we have a nice finished edge on top of our scarf. It just blends right in. That's what I love about this faux fur. It blends in perfectly. So now all we have to do is weave in the ends of our scarf. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. If you pull your loop apart where it's joined together, you're going to see a little thread here that's holding the loop together. All we're going to do is we're going to cut that little piece of thread off to open up our loops and make it like one long thing of yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and cut at least 3 loops at the end here. I think I have about 8 or 9 loops on my strand. I don't need all of that length of yarn. So just whatever ends you have, you're going to cut the loops so you have a long enough piece of yarn to weave in. So I'm just going to cut those extra loops off, no problem. And now all you have to do to weave this in, you can use a tapestry needle if you want to, but on the back side of our scarf, we're just going to find any little spot or loop that we can feel with our fingers and start weaving our end through those loops. And I'm going to go through quite a few loops here just to make sure that it's nice and secure. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is the greatest thing about this yarn, is it's so forgiving when it comes to weaving in your ends, sewing it together. All of it kind of gets lost in the mix because of the faux fur, because it's so fuzzy. It's a very forgiving yarn for that, which I love it for. And I love that I don't have to worry about getting a needle out to weave in the ends of the faux fur. So just weave it in a couple times through any loops you can feel in the back. And once you're satisfied with how your end is woven in, you can just go ahead and trim off the excess. And see, you don't even see it on the front at all. It all just looks like the faux fur. So I can go ahead and cut my end off here. And as you can see, it just totally disappeared into the scarf. Isn't that awesome? I love it. So now down here where we've joined our skeins, you're just going to do the same thing as before. So find where your loop connects, go ahead and snip the yarn in the middle of the loop to make it one long piece of faux fur. Let's snip this other one here. Okay, now we have one long piece of yarn. And again, I'm just going to weave that long tail in on the back side so that it's nice and secure. And I'm going to do it with all the ends that I have, weave everything in, and then you're done. And then you can leave your scarf as is. It'll be quite a long scarf if you leave it. Or if you want, you can turn yours into a pocket scarf like mine, which I'll show you next. Okay, so I've already woven in all my ends of my scarf, and now I've flipped the bottom end up on top of itself. And it's about, I would say, about 11 inches. Let's get our tape measure out so you can see. So I would fold up the end of your scarf about 11 inches up from the bottom. And that's going to create like a little pocket at the end. So we want to make sure that our edges are in line. And then I went ahead and put a little stitch marker where it should attach, making sure to go through both the bottom part of my scarf as well as the main section. So I'm just going to grab, this is a Vanna's Choice, another Lion Brand yarn that I love. This is Vanna's Choice in linen. So any yarn that matches the color that you're working with will be fine. You're not going to see it all, I promise. So cut a long length of yarn and then just thread it onto a blunt needle. A tapestry needle is preferred. So I'm going to thread this onto my needle. Just like that. And then right where my stitch markers are, I'm going to feel and make sure that I have a loop from the bottom of the scarf and a loop on the main body of the scarf. And I'm going to stick my needle through both those loops. I'm going to pull it all the way through, and then I'm just going to tie a knot here at the end of my yarn to secure it in place. And then we'll weave that end in when we're all done. So just tie a little knot. And then I'm just going to whip stitch down this edge of my scarf. And you'll see as I go that the thread just kind of disappears into the faux fur. Like I said before, this is a very forgiving yarn, so you're not going to see the Vanna's Choice yarn that I'm sewing with. So just whip stitch your sides together all the way down until you get to the fold. And just make sure that you're going through both sides of the scarf. You want to make sure that you're catching a loop on either side so you know that it's being sewn together. But just continue to whip stitch using a matching regular yarn color all the way down to the fold. Okay, so now we've gotten to the bottom fold, and I'm just going to tie another knot here to secure it, and you'll see that you can't see the yarn that we use to seam. It just blends right in. So you'll just repeat that on the other side to finish off that first pocket, and then do the same thing on the other end of your scarf to create a pocket there. Just remember to bring up 11 inches of yarn, or of your scarf, and then use a matching yarn color, and you'll create this nice pocket at the end. And when you're all done, just go ahead and take those ends of your yarn and like I kind of weave them into the inside part of the pocket, and you won't see them, I promise. So here's what it will look like when you're finished. This is a nice, simple, easy, super fast make using Lion Brand's Off the Hook Faux Fur yarn. I'll put links to the yarn that I used in the description below, as well as the blog post that accompanies this video. I hope that you'll give this yarn a try, and if you do, make sure to let me know and comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.